ジャギ様から盗み取った北斗神拳、北斗を味合わせてやるわ。
Hello everybody, welcome to the video. My name is Midway and today we are looking at what a caster build could look like in Mythic Plus in Dragonflight. So recently we did a video talking about what the raid testing in Dragonflight was showing for us all the Paladins. We found out that there was a big discrepancy between playing a melee build and playing a caster build. So yeah, I thought, well, might as well see what a caster build could potentially do in Mythic Plus. So here we are. If you want to see what the video, or rather what the build looks like, go down in the description. There's going to be a link to Wowhead so you can check that out and see the build. And also please drop a like and subscribe. But okay, so what the build really plays like is that you are still playing mainly a melee build, but you have some added options. You're talented into things like Barrier of Faith. You are talented into this thing that reduces the cooldown of Holy Shock whenever you are consuming infusions. You are also talented, I do believe we are talented into the Double Infusion talent. So we have some other options that are making our casts a little bit stronger. Divine Favor, Divine Revelations, we're buffing our heals from the casts a bit more. And the whole idea is to be able to, at some points in the fight, not always, try and actually use these infusions so that we can just do a little bit of healing, but also just benefit from, of course, getting some holy power by doing some holy lights, etc, etc. Really just trying to see if this sort of hybrid playstyle is able to exist. So do not look at my numbers right now. I did forget to use this file, the Fiel of Glacial Fury, so my damage is going to be quite lower. But naturally, with this sort of build where you're casting a lot, you can expect your damage to be a little bit lower. You are not going to be doing melee swings during that time. Also, you sometimes just stay out for a while in range and you don't go to melee, so maybe your consecration uptime is going to be weird. Whatever, it's just a build that naturally will do less damage, which for Mythic Plus is usually quite a big deal breaker. Now, for pure healing, this is not a bad build. I don't think it's that terrible. However, it is extremely clunky. As you can expect with anything that uses Holy Light, it doesn't really bode to be very fast. You cannot really react to things in a proper time with a Holy Light. So you end up using these casts mainly as a way of just do some big fat heals, but on very specific scenarios where you're safe and you don't really need, it's just I'm do more HPS, but not I'm gonna save the key right here with this heal sort of thing. Because, Holy Light is just extremely slow. But together with Divine Favor, together with everything else, and with Barrier of Faith, you could end up doing some decent numbers. I'm talking decent because your main source of heals, is still going to be Word of Glory, Holy Shock, and your Beacon Transfer. Even after the nerfs to Holy Shock's still doing a very respectable amount of healing and damage, way more than you're going to be doing with your Holy Lights and Flash of Light. So we are still picking this talent that buffs the healing and damage of your Holy Shock versus buffing your Flash of Light and Holy Light. So the build, as I said, plays pretty much just like a melee build. You're going to melee and you're going to be doing damage as normal, using your Words of Glory as your main source of healing. However, there is the chance that if you want to, you could go ahead and at some point in the fight, you could step out and use a Holy Light, and it's going to do some decent amount of damage, or rather healing. You are also able to just keep up Barrier of Faith with a pretty high uptime, so you are, of course, using the initial absorb that you provide when you use your that Barrier of Faith into somebody. That's now being changed, and it does about a 25k absorb shield onto whoever you apply the Barrier of Faith. But moreover, of course, it's going to be transferring some of the healing you do with Flash of Light and Holy Light onto that target for quite a long time. In the form of some absorb shields. And you will see at the end of the key that it does amount to quite a meaningful amount of healing. It really does. Although the breakdown didn't really make it too clear what was really happening with this talent, at least not in this case. But, it does a lot of healing and it's quite good and it feels quite decent. And it's so simple, you can just keep it up almost 100% of the time. It's not 100% uptime because it has shorter duration than the cooldown, but it's a long as duration, so you can just keep on using it and kind of forget about it. A little bit like, I would say, I don't know, Bestow Faith, you just apply it there and then that's about it. You just don't even have to think about your holy power in this case, so yeah, quite a decent talent. Of course, not the most reactive talent, that's what I'm trying to get at. This sort of build doesn't really provide the right tools for Mythic Plus. However, if you really like casting and for some reason you want to be casting, you could potentially play this. I'm not saying it's going to be good because the damage will definitely be lesser and it's not going to be too reactive, but there's a chance, you know, maybe at some point it's gonna be actually stronger. Anyways, this boss I did really enjoy here, just looking at what the Eye of the Storm thing that just happened, you know, when you're inside that Dome of Thunder. I think that's like a perfect mechanic for a Holy Paladin. You have something to hit because the boss is right next to you. There's gonna be everybody stacked up inside the barrier, so you're able to generate holy power and do some fat heals with your Lights of Dawn. So I do quite enjoy this boss. Also, this mechanic that just happened as well, those projectiles that are going out, which you can barely see on the graphics one settings. Those are one-shotting people. If you get hit by those, you're dead, pretty much. Even if there's no tyrannical or anything. It's a plus 15, which is a decently high key, but, you know, this is not even a weekly key level at this point. I think weekly keys are gonna go all the way up to plus 18, so, yeah, a little bit of maybe tuning issues here. You can see that people almost died immediately with this big circle that spawns around people. It's like expiring after a couple seconds, and it's gonna do a big burst, but regardless, looking at this scenario with all the AoE damage happening, and you're just standing there and able to heal everybody with your fat Lights of Dawn, I think this boss is going to be quite fun to heal as a Holy Paladin. But yep, we are still pretty much just playing this as a normal melee build once again. Trying to go back and forth between 5 Holy Power and 0, which is something that's still not really getting into my head too much. There's already enough things going on to also be looking at those buffs. But as you can see on my UI, which you can get, by the way, on my Discord right now, you can check the link in the description and join over there and get the UI that I have right now, which will probably need some tweaks and some things might be broken, but regardless, I'll be fixing those time after time. And there you go, you can see this big circle that just happens there, and yeah, that's pretty much what's gonna be the deadliest thing about this fight, I believe. But yeah, the UI is on the works, and it does show quite nicely those buffs, the Off Dusk and Dawn buffs. However, you know, it's not really that easy in the middle of the action to think about going all the way up to 5 and then to 0, and this caster build doesn't really make it any easier either. So Fenrir is one of the bosses that I mentioned that, you know, I think that there's a potential for, I don't know, maybe stepping out and having a reason for stepping out of melee for a couple seconds and then whipping in some fat heals from range. So those casts could come in quite handy, but there's always going to be something that's going to tell you when you need to step out. So the boss is doing some swipes around him, he's doing some AoE damage, and at some points you need to step out there. Otherwise, you're gonna get cleaved by quite a lot. So that's why I'm saying sometimes maybe you can abuse those holy lights and step out. But for the most part, once you have a weak core and it's telling you when you need to step out, you're just able to go in and out. It is 12 yards though, so that's quite some range. Probably gonna take a little bit of time going in and out. Also, this boss seemed, I don't know, want to say overtuned. It just seemed like quite fun because there was a lot of healing to be done. It's simply just rot heal going on because there's a lot of bleeds and you can get rid of those with a lot of things. Another reason to be a dwarf once again, but yeah, probably gonna be a boss that's gonna be a bit of a bitch in high keys. Now, God King's Kobold seemed pretty nerfed to me. The Feral Rushes didn't really do much damage. This seemed like probably the easiest boss in this whole dungeon. Either way, not too much of a benefit to playing a caster build in this boss. Yeah, you're pretty much just tank and spanking this boss, and it's a bit of a surge. He's not really doing much in this sort of key level. Of course, that could always change as you go higher and higher, but not a big benefit to being a caster here whatsoever, because also the damage was completely negligible. There was nothing going on. I do believe something else has to happen with those little ads that spawn, but here is what the big deal is. Odin was an absolute beast. Whenever you get to this point in the fight, he's quite low at this point, and remember, he dies at 70%, 80%, regardless. Yeah, it is 80%. He's summoning these big ass swords every about 10 seconds, and he's doing a fat amount of damage. We are also only formatting this because somebody disconnected, but regardless, there is just a lot of damage here, and also quite some opportunity maybe to whip in some casts, but the boss has such a big fat hitbox that you can pretty much always hit him. But there's points where, I don't know, I could see some Holy Light casts going through. It's just so hard because the benefit from going for a Holy Light is quite questionable in many scenarios, and you gotta find a reason to really benefit from it or to really justify actually Holy Lighting something. The healing, of course, will always be there, but it's not that big regardless. And Divine Favor, you know, it doesn't do that much. And well, here we end up somehow dying for some reason, but you'll see we end up killing the boss, and I'll see you on the breakdown in a second. So here we have the breakdown. You can see that the main source of healing was still Water Glory, Holy Shock, and Beacons as I was talking. Glimmer doing some decent amount of healing, but the big surprise here is Barrier of Faith, together of course with Hololight. Those heal transfers through Barrier of Faith amount to quite a bit of healing at the end of the dungeon. Judgment of Light has severely been gutted down, so that's doing way less healing. It used to almost do as much as Glimmer, but now that's pretty much gone. It does seem like Barrier of Faith is a pretty good option, but of course you gotta be casting for that. So yeah, Hololight actually did a little bit of healing, was quite a meaningful amount. And on the damage department, did not have the files, so yeah, Glacial Fury is not there. Also got a lot of resets of Hammer of Wrath with Veneration, because I'm using Holy Lights and Flash of Light, so that's good. But the main social damage is always going to be your Consecration. So yeah, hope you enjoyed the video, hope you find it useful. I'll see you on Dragonflight. Please drop a like and subscribe. We are popping off right now. And yeah, I'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye!